This week's map, Erlingen, I think I've said that right, is based on like a German or Austrian sort of town village with lots of small fields and easy to access areas. It's a very, very pretty, quaint little map that I have thoroughly enjoyed this week. This medium-sized map has a nice balance of small fields, mid-range fields, and then fairly large fields. Of course, it is all to scale. Most of these fields only reach about 3 or 4 hectares large, which compared to last week's map is quite small. But in the grand scheme of things, with what each of the crops are that you have, and you do have a wide range, it's not a bad sized map at all. The good thing about this is that the land is as a result fairly cheap. If we go to farmland here, as you can see, I've bought 3 plots of land already, which is more than I normally do. We've got field 54 here, which is a fairly even sized field, gives me about 16 or 17,000 litres of sunflowers. We've got plot 1, which is just your resting spot, your farmhouse. It does have a closet on there, which is kind of cool. And it's also got some animals on there and things like that. It's a very small pen. I think it's only around 25 pigs, etc. But you can have your own fuel station there. And you get some other bits and bobs in it. And that's only 260 grand. And then I bought this section over here, which gives me a silo and a shed and a place to store all of my equipment. And again, that was only 232,000. So all in all, these 3 pieces of land here only cost me around £500,000 to start up and get a base for my farm. Plot land on 1 also comes with a small grass field as well. You have a couple of shop points, you've got plenty of production, you've got an animal dealer, you have really nice sort of easy to get to areas. It does get a little bit confusing because there are a few bridges on the game and it doesn't really extenuate that it is a bridge very well. Again, compared to Oberthal last week, where the bridges are very, very defined, it's not that great. Also, the water isn't a different color, or it's not a vast different color to what I would need as somebody who's colorblind. Another instance where the bridge isn't very well defined is down here, and the amount of times I've come down here thinking, oh, that's a crossroad, only to find out it's not. It's easy enough to discern here, but on the minimap it is very hard. And that's the map overview. There's not really a lot to talk about. Like, the fields are of decent size. Like I said, they're well laid out. They are next to each other. You can get a lot done in a very short amount of time. And there are a lot of fields to buy, going up to around 78, 79. Overall, a solid map. Very well balanced, very user friendly for beginners as well. Like, this is a map that I would recommend for somebody starting out who wants to branch from the base game but doesn't want to go into something too crazy like Oberthal or Calmsden. As we start looking around this map, you can see that we are in the area that I bought with the cow shed, the pig shed, etc. It's a bit confusing to get around. There is a lot to go through, and it, like I say, the actual inlaid map of where you are isn't that easy to get to. You do get a few bits of trees which look like they could be dealt with a logger quite easily, and as you can see, the areas in the fields are incredibly easy to get around. They're very open, so you can use larger machinery if you so desire. There are some very tight roads. Some of the off-roads with bridges and things can be a little bit difficult to maneuver around, but for the most part, if you stick to the main roads, you can get to pretty much any field that you want to. There aren't any like hedges or fences to stop you from getting to where you want to go. The actual city itself is quite nice as well, or the town area with the clock tower. Gives you a really nice sense of liveliness. There are a lot of traffic. Because the road is a lot smaller than Oberthal, you can actually fit more in. And the houses and the styling is just, it's very pretty. It's a very, very pretty map that doesn't surrender playability for realism or aesthetics, which I really, really like. I could spend all day driving around here and not get bored. I genuinely could just take it all in. The fields, although they're not overly huge, are again scaled fairly well. Like, it feels like they're a decent size that take you a fair amount of time to get certain jobs done. Things like fertilizing don't take very long, but then obviously you can sit and do harvesting and you cultivating and things. And if you use large equipment, it's still going to take you a good 10 or 15 minutes per field, which is very good. Overall, I really like this map. There's not a huge amount to say about it. There's nothing that's gone wrong. I've had no bugs outside of one visual bug with wheat where it was a bit dotty on the screen as I was going around and doing it, but I've not had that since, and I only had that once. So a small visual bug is not really anything to sort of complain about in any way, shape or form. This is a really good map, as I've said before, for immediate players to sort of get to grips with things and have a go at branching out on a map that is not base game. It's got everything you could ever need. It's got everything that you could find. If they change the colouring for the water, it would be pretty much perfect. It's a nice map that I have enjoyed my time with this week. And again, there's not really a lot to say about it. It's easy to maneuver. There's plenty of contracts to do because of how many fields there are. I still drive poorly on the wrong side of the road. And it's just good. It's just a solid map. I highly recommend it. Thank you very much for watching, guys. And I shall see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.